Well, howdy, everyone. Well, I guess we'll wait a minute. You have to love Restream every once in a while. Well, howdy, everyone. Oh, wait a minute. Now I'm hearing myself. What is going on here? You have to love Restream every once in a while. Oh, wait a minute. Myself. What is going on? Whose microphone is doing that? You have to love Restream once in a while. Oh, wait. Myself. What is going on? Whose microphone is doing that?
Maybe if everybody mutes. All right.
We'll just probably have the show by herself. How about that?
Yes, I know, Travis, you're muted.
All right.
I had muted him for a second because that stopped it.
Probably have the show by herself. How about that?
It's still doing it. Yes, I know, Travis, you're muted. I had muted him for a second.
Is there a background maybe tab open?
Does anybody else hear this, or is it just me?
Still doing it. Yes, I know, Travis, you're muted.
It's just me?
Is there a background maybe tab open?
Does anybody else hear this, or is it just okay? All right, everybody just make sure in their audio settings that echo, cancellation, and noise suppression is checked. All right, everybody just make sure there's the little settings button to the right. That echo, cancellation, and noise suppression is checked. All right, everybody just make Jen? Sure there's the little settings button to the right. That echo, cancellation, and noise suppression is checked. Jen, there's the little settings button. Wow, this is weird. Okay. So anyway, I'm going to go on. I'm going to try something just to make sure it's not mine. It's doing it. And it stopped. So for some reason, it had to be mine. Or is it still going? You know, where okay, hopefully this will go away. We're like in a tunnel somehow or other. And I don't know where it's coming from. Try talking to us. No. So it's not her.
Okay, I'm talking now.
Des, you have any ideas? You go through this.
Yeah, I guess. I'm thinking. Okay. I'm thinking there might you close all your other windows that you might have open.
Did that do it?
Yes.
Okay. I took care of something over here. Very good. Welcome, guys. Welcome to our show tonight. I don't know about you, but every time I've been using Restream lately, that's a bad advertisement for them. But I've been having some serious problems with them going live and everything else. But anyway, we're here tonight to talk about, sounds terrible. We're here to talk about Bill Bean. But for yes, exactly.
Let's do that. Let's talk about Bill.
That's right. Let's talk about Bill Bean.
The warrior is not here to defend himself, so let's talk about
that.
That's
right.
He's here in spirit. He's a spiritual warrior. But for our listeners, just so you know, Bill had to take care of a family that needed assistance. So Bill is gone taking care of that family. So he couldn't be here tonight. So he offered me Travis in his place. I like how he just offered me Travis in his place. And of course, I said, well, if he's going to give me Travis, then I'm stealing Des. Okay, so I'm going to take his show and put it over here. And then I got my wife, Jen, to join us.
All
Now,
right.
I can still hear that a little bit.
Do you?
Okay. It's got to just be my system. So, anyway, um, Travis, I'm going to start with you. Tell us a little about your relationship right now with Bill Bean, and especially the book Tales from the Exorcist from the Case Files of Reverend William J. Bean.
I will be more than happy to do that. Bill and I have known each other, I want to say about 12 years. I think it was 2010 when Bill and I were introduced by Lillian Caldwell, who has a radio station, internet radio, in Michigan. And she had interviewed Bill, and I was working with her on some projects. She's an author also, and she suggested that I get in touch with Bill Bean, or actually that Bill get in touch with me. So he did, and he explained to me his role, what he was doing, and the books that he had written. At that point, there were two, and he asked if I would start representing him, and so I asked him to send me copies of the books, and so I could read them. And he sent me Dark Force and Delivered. Those were the original two books that he had written, and we developed a professional relationship, a very strong working relationship, and we developed a very strong personal relationship, a very brotherly relationship. I love the man dearly. It fascinates people that he and I have never met in person. 12 years and have never met. We have come close a couple of times. He's either been coming into like Tennessee or Kentucky just as I was leaving the state to go somewhere else. And so we never actually had the chance to meet. But over the years, I've booked interviews like this for him. And like you said, Steve, he has often not been able to do it because of the stress and the rigors of what he does as a spiritual warrior, a deliverance minister, and exorcist. So I have been Bill Bean by proxy on many occasions, and I've gotten very familiar with Bill's original story, as well as the books that he's written since then, and the TV shows that he's been on, and all of that, and very, very happy about this new book. And I'm actually trying to see if I can share my screen because I wanted everyone to be able to see.
I can give you a screenshot if you want of the book.
Yeah, I was going to say if you've got that right handy, go ahead and throw
Yes,
that
I do.
up
I
there.
have it right here with me.
Let's
And heck, I actually see it right behind. There's a shoulder right there too.
Yep. And
Yeah.
I've got my copy right here. I have, he sent me a copy a couple months. Yes, there it is. Tales from an Exorcist. Des is the genius behind this cover artwork, and that's one of the reasons I wanted you guys to see it. If you're not familiar with the book and what it looks like, it is by far the most professional cover that we've had done for one of Bill's books, and
Thank you.
she's done an amazing job in, I think, capturing the essence of the spiritual warrior, the combination of the Christianity and the Judaism in this photograph. That stern look, you can tell that Bill is staring down a demon in that shot. I mean, he is just aching to take them on in battle. I think it's an amazing layout, amazing design. It looks good. It feels good when you pick it up. Like I said, I've got my copy here, and it's just I like real books. I don't like reading books. I like holding a book, and this one just has such a nice feel. The layout is amazing, and the book is really something Bill and I have talked about for many years, and that is him putting together his case files and some of his more I don't want to say prominent, but some of the more powerful cases that he's worked on. And so we've talked about this for several years. He finally decided to sit down and do it. I'm glad he did. He's put a lot of thought into the stories that he's chosen. He's put a lot of heartfelt writing into it, and it's a really, really neat book to read because Dark Force tells Bill's life story. Most anybody that knows Bill Bean, they know his story. Delivered is kind of the the second chapter in that. It talks about his life after the demonic incidents growing up as a child. And I really do think that this book serves as the perfect bookend for a trilogy that kind of shows how that story has arced and has come full circle from someone whose family had been terrified and oppressed and attacked by demonic forces to this man who is now helping other families, not just across the country, like you mentioned. You know, he got a call, Steve, earlier this week. He had to jump on a plane and fly to Florida, and that's not unusual for Bill. Now it's unusual in this post-COVID because this is maybe the first in a handful of instances when he's done that. But before, he was doing it all the time. He was flying to Chicago. He was flying to Florida. He was in California. He was in Texas. He was all over the country. But he's one of the few deliverance ministers that will perform exorcisms and deliverances via Skype or Zoom or the telephone or anything like that. And it's, I think, very important that individuals understand that with Bill, because if Bill can't come to you physically, as you mentioned, he is the spiritual warrior, and the spiritual domain and realm is not confined to physical proximity. He doesn't have to physically be there for the power of God to move through him and for him to do what it is that he has been called to do. So it's an amazing book. You really need to check it out. And I want to turn it over to Des real quickly because we've only got her for just a little bit of time, Steve, and I can stay longer. I want her to talk about her working relationship there with Bill, how she's been able to help him. She's done some amazing video work. She's done some amazing graphic design work, web design, all this stuff she's been able to do. And as I said, she helped put this book together, so she's read these stories. She knows these stories by heart, and I think it would be really interesting to kind of get a little bit of insight from her.
Well, it was one of the reasons I wanted to have Des on the show today. But I just want to say one thing, Travis. Is it sort of suspect that the weather gets in the cold 20s and 30s and Bill suddenly has to travel to Florida?
I know. It is
Right.
rather
Think about
odd.
that one.
It is rather odd, I would have
Yes.
to say.
I just found it really suspect. So, Des, this is the first time you're on with us. Thank you
Yes.
for joining
Thank
us.
you.
I mean,
Thank
tell
you,
us a little about Bill. And, we see you every week on, the Spiritual Warrior show. And, I mean, basically, you're running that show for Bill because Bill has no clue sometimes. I mean, he's not really up to date on the electronics part of it. Let's put it that way.
I call
I'm
him the
being
flip.
really nice, okay? But it's true.
No, I call him the flip phone man.
Yes. I
Because
mean,
he
I've
just
known Bill for a long time. Jed's known Bill for a long time. Okay, when it comes to technology, he takes a step back as far as that's concerned. So, how did you become involved with Bill?
it's God leads and works in mysterious ways. It was a year ago, actually. It's been a year, and it was in later October and now November. I have been what I say God leads I follow since 2010, and I acquired all this cumulative skills of graphic web design throughout the years, evolving as technologies has evolved. Because in my mind and opinion, I was like, well, if the devil or evil has a platform, good has to have a platform. We have to have an ability, a way to be heard, to be seen, to be competitive in this realm. What I now understand is a spiritual warfare. I was seeking some type of help, tangible help of somebody that had wisdom, someone that was wouldn't think that I was crazy and maybe refer me to a psychologist or psychiatrist or a medication. I was just towards the end of my rope of the thread that I was at. A lot of spiritual attacks, physical things. Growing up now, I am no stranger to supernatural. My whole family and everybody is very like, oh, the supernatural. I just like I was even telling Travis too. I just didn't know it existed across the platform. Like there's a whole community of people that experience the same thing. And that there's people out there that actually can help you and give you what's called a deliverance. I was raised Roman Catholic, so all I knew was an exorcist. I saw things on TV growing up, scary movies or whatnot. The movies versus reality of my time that I've worked with Bill, there are some things that I've seen that I'm like, okay, I can see now where that director or that movie writer got those ideas from. Some of this stuff really exists. And some of it I can see might be a little embellished, but there are still stories that Bill tells me, and I'm just like, wow, brother, absolutely just, it gives me chills. It is just like how he is one of the most modest, humbling men I've ever met in my life. What you see is exactly who he is. His presence, his convictions, his he's very, ordered, and what if he says that he when he wakes up every day, he literally wakes up every day, gets on his knees, and he prays before even putting anything in his mouth. He literally, he just doesn't talk, and then on screen, and then off screen he's something else, or when he's not working, he is who he is 24/7. So this whole warrior mode of 24/7, 365, 7 days a week. Yes, that's true. That is his lifestyle, and that is him. Uh, his name came in a, what I say, a divine or supernatural way. Um, it was to a point of an instant, I guess, where I guess I needed some kind of help. This house that are at the time that I was in, something grabbed me by my ankle, levitated me, pulled me up, and slammed me down on the wooden. And there was a lot of other things that were going on. Was it here previously? No, it was conjured, and it was welcome, not by myself, but by another person. I have been going through a lot of other stuff throughout my life, but me and my family kind of normalized everything. There would be glasses being thrown out of the kitchen or whatnot. We never took what Bill says, take authority and, fight spiritual warfare. We didn't know any of that. So God answered prayers when I had prayed. My mom was praying. Our whole family was praying for somebody to come into our life to help us combat and find a way to overcome and, find a solution and some peace. I was in the hospital for a year. Unable to eat with like unknown illnesses and medical problems. Just a lot of things. So I heard Bill's name uh, on a show. My mom watches uh, Discovery show and whatnot, and I heard I think the person say Bill Bean, and whatever thing was, I was doing dishes, didn't really catch my attention, but I heard the name Bill Bean. The second time, I'm visiting my mom, and things are escalating here at the house, and I'm waking up with a lot more bruises and, having a lot more nightmares, and it is getting intense. And as things intense, people have a tendency to also, the fear increases as well. And this overwhelming of gloom, and oh my God, I'm gonna die, to where I was at. I was starting to reach out. My mom was starting to reach out. We're starting to look under paranormal investigations now. We're like, well, we hear about this stuff. Let's see what this is about. My mom was thinking about looking at a medium. My mom was like, my families were and friends were all praying. We were all trying to, with the resources and the tools that we had, try to find some type of solution. And then I heard again the spiritual warrior as he enters, and he was on another show, and part in Native American. So I thought he was a Native American, the spiritual warrior. So I remember dropping, looking to see who it was, and then I see him wearing his tallit, this picture, and I'm like, oh, it's a Jewish person. Well, they're not going to help me because I've already been to Baptist, I've already been to progressive Christian, I already spoken to Buddhist, Hindu. I was reaching out and trying to speak to everyone and anyone for help. So then I was in the car and I was distracted or whatever in the car, found his name again through the radio, and it was listening to a show on Sirius, and it was Bill being a deliverance minister. And I was like, what is a deliverance minister? Never heard of it. Didn't know what that was. And I was like, I'm going to make sure this is the third time I've heard his name. It must be important. I have just been praying for help. So I wrote it down. Later that evening, I sent an email. I found his contact and I was like, I don't even know if this is going to make sense because to me, I feel it's kind of sounds insane and crazy, but I'm being haunted. I'm being attacked. I just got out of the hospital. This is very serious. If there's anything you can help me with or guide me, please let me know. Very short, very brief, prayed, sent it away. And within 24 hours, I got a phone call from his assistant, Melinda, saying, we got your inquiry. My name is Melinda. How could we help you? I was in disbelief. How did that happen so quickly? And I told her everything. I talked to Bill the next day, and within, I'd say, 24 hours, we did a Skype deliverance in my home and prayer. It was overwhelming. It was absolutely, to describe it is what people would think like that's what I see on TV, but it was true. It was the God honest truth. It was it was absolutely powerful. There was somebody else in the room as well. The prayers were strong. He was exactly what I needed to help me at that moment and to help me, I guess, an answer of who I prayed when I prayed to God for somebody tangible here to help teach me, show me with wisdom, and lead me in a stronger pathway to God. Since then, it's just been hand in hand because we're both are. I'm on my path with God. He worked God. It's a win-win. I love doing graphic and designs and being a platform to help God's word gets out. Well, Bill has a lot to say and a lot of work to do. So, it's all through God's, honestly, I say God's grace and God's, you know, uh, God's will that I'm even able to do anything. Before I do anything, I pray. My creativity, I give thanks to God. I would be too bold and I wouldn't want to say that that was me. It's really, it's all God's work.
Well, I can tell you, as someone who just retired
Hmm.
from web design, graphic design for over 35 years, that's what I did
Yes.
before I got sick and had to retire. You do excellent work. So, you,
Thank you. Thank you very much. I
you're
appreciate
welcome.
that.
Now, we met, Jen, what was it when we met Bill? Do you remember?
I don't remember the year that we met him. I know we began talking to Bill in like 2009, 2010, probably about the same time that Travis began talking to him. So I think we've all known him for around the same
Wow.
amount of time. I do know where we were at when we met Bill, and that was at an event, Keith Age's event,
Mid
Mid
South,
South.
yeah.
And it was just, that was really cool to meet him.
In fact, I even have, as we keep talking here, I'll find the picture because it's on my screen thing here of the time that we met Bill, the very first time we had met him. And for Des, I know Travis knows
Hmm.
already, we're paranormal investigators. We investigate, I've been doing it for 45 years.
Wow.
So we had heard about Bill sort of similar to you, the way you had. And he started,
Uh,
names started showing up at Paragons all over the place.
oh,
And
wow.
we started talking, and he came to a couple of events in Indiana. There was one that he was for a child. What was it for a little kid? Do you remember the one in Madison? Okay,
He
there
was
was
there
some
to help
child.
raise money. Yeah. Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
remember the little kid's name, but yeah, he was there to help raise money for that. We actually began talking to Bill in 2009, 2010 when his book came out, and we
Hmm.
were at that point in time, I was doing Your Life Matters with Steve, and I had reached, just sent him a message saying, "Hey, would you want to be on the show? We'll talk about your book, that kind of thing." Because we were doing paranormal investigations at the time, so it would have had to have been about 2010 when we were doing that. He came on the show, and he was pretty much a regular on the show at that point in time. And then we switched over to Your Christian Life Matters. When we were doing that, we were kind of doing 2 podcasts at one time. And we had him on the show then. And then we actually got to meet him. And we've actually helped him, or been, I can't say we helped him, but we've been present when he was doing one of his deliverances.
Oh,
Which
wow.
was really fascinating to actually witness. And it was interesting in the fact that while he was doing one thing, we could kind of be eyes and ears in a different way, so he could focus on what he was doing, which I thought was really important.
See, that's the
That is-
photo of when we first met Bill at Mid South.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, I remember
That is
the event. I mean, he still looks the same. That's the amazing thing about Bill. Okay. I mean, I've aged and everything. We've all aged. Bill, no, not at all. Okay. He just stays and continues to look the same. He has that same smile, that same demeanor about him all the time. He's absolutely amazing person. I know when the event she was talking about, if it lets me go back here, I guess not. Doesn't want to put me there, but that's okay. It probably knows better. We had a long talk about the paranormal and the things that go on with evil and stuff. And probably about 2.5, 3 hours, we sat and spoke to each other. After which point I said, "This guy's the real thing." Yeah, I was born and raised Roman Catholic, also, but I knew enough about what was going on that I knew that this man really cared about people. He really had a genuine concern for everyone. And that's why I even say that I heard you say about, he called you back within 24 hours. Yeah, Bill will go out of his way to make sure that everyone is taken care of. And sometimes before technology, that we had Zoom and stuff where you had to travel, I know back then there were some people who couldn't really afford to have Bill there. And Bill would figure something out some way so he could go out and still help every single person that asked for his help. And you don't get better than that. I mean, you really, really don't.
I have, over the years that I've known Bill, he and I have had conversations for sometimes 4 and 5 hours into the night, talking about his cases and talking about everything that goes on in his life. And you're right, Steve. He has a genuine love of people. And you're right. He hasn't changed. Even though I've never met him in person, we're on video with him weekly. The man actually has more hair now than he did in 2009.
God bless him. Okay, it's not happening up here. I can tell you that.
But he is. He's an amazing individual. I count myself very fortunate, like you guys, to have crossed paths with him. And to have been, working with him and hopefully to be in some small way a blessing back to him as he has been to all of us and to those around us.
And every time you talk to him, he's like, "Love you, brother." I hope, even if I'm sending him something, he's like, "I hope Jen is doing well. I love you guys, miss you guys." And we haven't seen each other in a while because, well, we did a couple of years ago, but he doesn't do shows or anything anymore. And that was because the people in the paranormal field are split evenly. Okay, you either have those that believe in the evil that's there and those that don't. Okay, the ones that don't are making a huge mistake in this field.
Right.
Okay, we've encountered evil firsthand, and we've encountered evil how it's taken hold of people firsthand. And I mean, the one we were at, where there's only one, I think we probably referred 15, 20 people to him over the years. And he knew that if we sent them that this was legit, hey, let me back here, do that. This was legit. That we've gone through everything. And Jen can even tell you the one we did a few years ago, while he was doing the deliverance. I don't really want to call it an exorcism, but I guess it really was. But the deliverance upstairs, Jen and I were sitting on this little couch that was
Wow.
at the bottom of the stairwell. There was all this activity going on upstairs while he was doing this. I mean, it was quiet when he came in and stuff, but the moment he started, you started hearing talking, you started hearing banging, and everything else going on upstairs. And nobody was there. There was only two people in the house, the husband and wife. There was Jen and myself and Bill that were there. And that tells you alone, you want the scientific, well, that's my scientific side of saying
Right.
that even the spirits were reacting during that time. So,
Yeah.
Jen, do you remember anything in particular you remember about that?
What I remember is the very first time that we went there, this entity, spirit, whatever you want to call this thing, would not show itself at all. And then the second time that we went back, I was seeing an image, but it was showing itself as, was it a monk or a friar or whatever it was? The only thing I could do was when we took our break was like, okay, this is what I'm seeing, and I described whatever it was. And so when I told Bill this, and we even had a photo, he knew it, he could see exactly what I was seeing too. So whenever there's something like this that comes up, I don't even question where else I'm going to go. I don't question, oh, I need to go ask this paranormal group, or I need to go ask this person because they've had a lot more years experience. No, my first go-to is to Bill. Like that's my only thing. And so that night when we were there, we started outside. It was very quiet. We got inside. Bill started talking to the person who was having the problems. And Bill picked up on a lot of different things that she had not even said to anybody. Like he already knew what was going on with her and where all of this started. And so this thing was going, she wanted me to show how to do like cleanse her space and cleanse her home and that kind of thing. And when I was talking to her about this, she said, well, I've seen that thing for years. And she's like, why didn't you tell me? And it's like, we did tell you. And so she still hasn't changed a lot of the things in her life, and that has a lot to do with it. Bill can only do so much.
Right.
If they're not willing to change what they're doing in their life and get real on some of the things and get closure on some of the things that's happened in their past, all of these things will still continue to happen.
Yes.
You're
And
absolutely right.
we've said that many a times to people on investigations. They're like, well, can you get rid of what's here? It's
Right.
like, well, we can do a cleansing, which is not going to get rid of what's here. I can tell it to leave, even like in Bill's case. Bill can tell it to leave. But if you go right back to what you're doing, you're opening the door right back up for it to come right back in again. And
100%.
you have to, you both have been through that. You have to say, hey, I'm not doing this anymore. This I want to live a better life. Or in most of these people's cases, they didn't even do anything wrong. Okay, this something has just come in and grabbed them. Now, I know he talks about part of it in the book, and I read through 99% of it. I really did read through 99% of the book. We've been sort of a little busy getting ready to move and stuff. So, one of the things that Jen and I have always noticed is that it goes after the week.
Yeah.
Yes.
And what I mean by the weak, I'm not talking about people don't have strong, personalities or anything. I'm talking about there's people that are handicapped,
Mm,
people that are sick, have a
mhm,
really mental illness and stuff. And
mhm,
I noticed, and Jen has noticed on our investigations, it really goes after those people and takes
mhm,
hold on those people because they cannot fight back.
No, no, they can't. And it preys, like you said, Steve, on individuals. And when you read Tales from an Exorcist, you see this in some instances, not all instances, but definitely in some instances that it does prey on those who have pre-existing physical and spiritual and mental conditions.
Mhm.
mhm,
And I would take it a step further than what you said, Steve, because I think the demonic preys at both ends of the spectrum. It preys on those who are weak, and then it goes after the people like the Bill Beans of the world, those who are battling and doing spiritual warfare. So I think that's not to say that everyone in the middle is safe. It's just I think the majority of those attacks fall on either end of that spectrum. And I think when you read Bill's book, and there are chapters where people come right out and name themselves, and there's some where he's uh, kept anonymity for people who didn't want to be named. But you'll see the same thing plays out over and over again as you read each of these case files from Bill's cases.
See, people really need to buy the book because there are some
mhm.
pictures in there that really
Yes.
freaked me out. Okay, and I've been doing
Oh
this for
yeah.
45 years. There's some really good photos in
L-
there
Let
and
me
stuff.
tell you. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, I
No,
was
go
I
ahead.
was gonna say, do you talk about the pictures? You are so right. Now, assembling and doing the book layout, I prayed for two reasons. Prayed that what I was doing would be directed in a good way, but also prayed because some of the stories, and although I wanted to, I was trying to be the best in professional. It was more of a, I guess, for layout design or whatnot, but just the glimpses and some of the stories before I read it as whole, they were scary, and I say scary because they're real, and it's not a make believe, and it's not. I'm just like, oh my gosh, I know some of these people, and it hurt my heart. But those pictures, I did not want it stained in my mind or anything. I was like rebuking it, and I know there's several couple times I would call Bill and we would pray because they're real. And I don't know, for other people, you guys are investigators. Wow. I now, knowing what I know now, I haunted houses don't seem fun anymore. Like, they're not, especially if it's real legitimate. And going through what I went through, I wouldn't want to. So yes, you are so right. There are some pictures in there that are, you could just feel the evilness. You could just feel the energy. You could just feel it through those images. And so sorry, I just had to like completely jump in there and say, yes, you are right, 110%.
See, I was going to actually show the pictures, and then I
Mm-hmm.
said no because that's something that people need to buy the book for.
Thank you very
Okay.
Okay,
much.
and
As
that's why
as,
I didn't
as his
want to.
publicist, thank you very much for that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so you're welcome.
no
Hey, I
freebies.
mean, this
No
this
freebies.
show, believe it or not, is about authors and their books. So
Yeah.
we're trying to help authors promote their books. Now, Jen, you
Mm-hmm.
said that somebody had a question. Is
Yeah,
it
Mm-hmm.
Mercedes has a question. It says, I have a question, please. I have been wanting to ask on this show. Do you feel as if when you are on paranormal investigations, on paranormal investigation work, that you feel safe because of your belief in God?
Mm.
okay?
I'm guessing that one's actually aimed at the two of you, since
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
you're the ones doing the
yeah.
investigation work.
Hit me with that question one more time. In
She wants to
simply,
know, do we feel safe when we do paranormal
okay,
investigation with
gotcha.
our
Okay,
belief in God? Um, you know,
you know
for
what?
myself, I always go around, I always connect with God regardless. I mean, I never have most people, they say their prayers and they say an amen. I don't think I've ever said an amen in my entire life because my conversation with God is a continuous one. So there's never,
Mm-hmm.
there's a start to it, but there's never an ending to it. And so that's something that's always true for me. And then the other thing is when I'm on an investigation, I have Archangel Michael with me at all times. He's an angel that came in. And Desiree, I'm going to tell you right now, when you get to number 2, when you start to see something and you're at the second point of seeing it, don't even wait for the third when you know what you're supposed to do. And that's what happened to me with this angel. I had 3 people who didn't know each other, didn't live in the same area, sending me messages all on the same day. Hey, about this and this and this. And it's like, okay. And then I had another person saying, Jen, this angel is going to be with you at the beginning of an investigation and will leave when you're done.
Wow.
So I never feel threatened. I never fear anything. When we go to an investigation, when I was the one who would take the calls, they would say, the homeowners would say, no, don't call her. Don't call her. And I said, that's because they know I'm coming and I'm coming for them.
Nice.
Well, I know myself, when people always ask us on investigations that same question, aren't you afraid of what's here? And I usually go in, no, I don't strip, but I usually go in and I pull out my cross. And they say, oh, is that like special cross? I was like, no, that's a piece of jewelry. Okay,
Sure.
like the U2 song, Jesus around your neck. It's what it stands for.
Right.
And the belief that's in my heart, that makes me not afraid of what's there. I mean, I'm really not afraid. Only once, very early on, there was something in a room that was really bad. And I knew that if I walked into that room, it was going to attack me. And I was not ready to be attacked at that point. I stepped out of the room. And when it got people to come into the room with me, and when they came into that room, they all felt something there. I mean, people that are not psychics all felt that's how thick the room was.
Wow.
Now, today, I say, come for it. Come on. And I'll give you a quick example that we'd written about in my book where, and Jen will still get a good laugh out of this, was one night I was sleeping, and I don't remember dreams. Sorry, I just don't. Okay. And this one I remember. I walked into a bank, and it wasn't my regular bank. And as soon as I walked in and got up to the window, all these lights and sirens went off. Okay, and I was like, boy, they know I'm from New York. So all these lights and sirens going, and I turn around, and there is this like 8 or 9 foot black entity behind me.
Wow.
I'm not talking about a face color. I'm talking about it was all black. I remember its hands were like that, and it grabbed me by the neck and lifted me up in the air. Hence where dream switches to reality. Because the next thing I know is it dropped me. And it dropped me about 10 feet down to the ground next to the bed. Jen rolled over and started laughing and said, oh, you fell out of bed, huh?
Like, no.
And I was like, no. And I remembered everything about it. I mean, as if it happened yesterday. And I remember my first words in my head was, is that the best you can do? To whatever it was, that the best you can do? Because that didn't scare me. It might have hurt me when the throbbing stops, I'll let you know. But it didn't actually hurt me. So if something wants to hurt you, I always tell people it can. Like, there's your story that you told there, okay? It can physically harm you if it wants to. When we go to investigations, people say, aren't you scared of it? No. I mean, it's different if it takes me up and sticks me up in the corner of the room again. I might be a little...
It's a natural fear.
Concerned about it. Okay, I may not be scared, but I'll be concerned. And I was trying to find a question, but something that I always say to people, and Travis, maybe you can help me about fear is one of the worst things that you can do to a spirit or entity. And I always say it's like throwing gasoline onto a fire. Now, do you remember that in the
Well,
book,
yeah, I mean,
Travis?
I do, and I have, Bill and I have had this conversation, and of course, in a very different era of my life, um, have used the similar analogy. Fear is, as human beings, it is natural to fear. It's built into our psychological makeup and evolutionary makeup, and I'm not even going to get into the debate on evolution and using that term and creationism or anything like that. But as we evolve as human beings, we're born fearing. Babies cry out of fear; they cry out of hunger. Fear is natural. As we grow older, and as we become more cognizant, and as we become more grounded, then we discover that we don't have to be afraid of everything. It's if that fight or flight is not always doesn't always have to kick in. And I'll give you an example. I will periodically suffer from severe anxiety attacks. I've had them my entire life, and they typically manifest whenever I'm extremely stressed. And so they've come back the past several months, being in graduate school and the amounts of driving that I'm doing and the lack of sleep that I'm getting. So the anxiety attacks have come back. Now, when they first surfaced in my adulthood in my 20s, so 20 some years ago now, I thought I was having a heart attack. I mean, I was married at the time. I had Rachel call 911. I was rushed to the hospital, spent the night at the hospital, and I spent about 6 months going to seeing cardiologists and all of this and running up all of these bills and MRIs and MRAs and CAT scans and all of this, only to discover it was basically a damn anxiety attack is what it was. I was so panicked and I was so jacked up on caffeine. In my defense, I did have 8 pots in one day.
Wow.
So
Phew, lucky to
You
have a
just do a
heart
couple
attack.
lines of coke.
I
and it was
know
easier.
heart attack, anxiety attack. I know.
Yeah.
I was actually thinking when Des was talking about how Bill, before Bill even has a drink of water or a drink of coffee or anything like that, he's on his knees praying. I tried that one morning and God stopped me and told me to go get a cup of coffee and never talk to him that way again. But to address what you're talking about, Steve, as individuals who have found grounding and faith in God, then when we show that fear, it does strengthen that demonic force. It gives it power. It gives it dominion. It gives it a sense of ownership when we start fearing.
Mhm.
You're a lot braver than I am. I would never challenge a demonic force. I would never call it out and say if that's the best you can do. But
Mm.
I'm a New
that's
Yorker.
well, I was going to say there's a difference there.
Yeah, it's
But I do think um, when we give in to fear, and there's so many passages in the Bible, and Bill uses them in his deliverances about casting out fear and casting out doubt and all of those things, and you'll see that over and over again throughout the book. As you read each of these chapters, you will see that on Bill's behalf, that he does do this, that he does invoke the power of God over the power of fear.
what I was saying. I actually did find what I was looking for in the book. Bill deals with many who are under spiritual attack. They can be affected by demonic possession. It's fear that draws them, and they will not leave until God works through someone to evict them. That's what I was looking for in the book. And before I go any further, Des, I want to thank you for joining us. I know
Oh, thank you.
I know you had to go and stuff, so you know,
I
if
apologize.
you want
Yes.
to come back, you're welcome to
Oh,
come back if we're still here.
I would love to. Yes, that would be
And I'd love to.
fantastic.
We'll actually maybe even do a show with you and stuff, and we'll talk
Oh,
about
thank you, John.
your stuff on there too. So
No
it was
problem.
really nice meeting you, and
Oh, it was so nice to
trust me,
meet
it's
you.
really tough when I'm watching the show, The
Mm-hmm.
Spiritual Warrior. I'm
Right.
watching it on my TV,
Uh-huh.
okay, with my Fire Stick. Now
Yes,
you
you told
can't
me.
comment on the TV, so I have to now grab my cell phone and I have to pull it up on my cell phone to be able to say something.
Right.
Okay, because that's the only way I can talk to you guys is to do that. So, we were sort of having a little bit of fun with at your expense with the
Oh, I appreciate it.
yeah, that was
No, no, but I loved it. It was such it honestly to me, if oops, sorry, excuse me, I didn't mean to click that really
okay.
quick. Apologies. Honestly, to me, it's a compliment. I think that that's fantastic. No, I love it, and I love receiving everything and anything. It is as you can see, it's this is the first time I've been on this end of live
It's
broadcast
uncomfortable,
streaming.
isn't it?
It's nice. I want to have a tendency. I was like, oh no, no, I get to sit down and I
You
actually
know
I
what
put
I'm.
my
Well, the funny thing is, what I'm doing on this
I
end.
do, I do, I absolutely do, and I respect very much everything that you're doing. So
Mhm.
it was really nice just to just enjoy and listen to the conversations. Yes, I would love to hear some more because I was my mind was going through with questions, and you guys have known Bill for so long, and I love learning more and everybody's other interactions and relationships and the picture that was shared. But yes, Tales for from an Exorcist is life changing. It's great. The Purge book was fantastic. This takes it a next
This is a
level.
whole nother level.
Right, it's a whole
This-
nother level, and
right.
I am very, very appreciative of your time
Well, I
and
would appreciate
opening up.
you
Thank you
you
so much.
finding some time to be in here and joining
Yeah,
us tonight.
I really enjoy talking to you, and
Aw,
I will share something with you. Now,
yes.
normally I'm not in there when he's watching TV or
Hmm.
anything else, but when you guys were on the other night and you actually stayed for the entire episode, Travis, I
Yes.
was in there watching and listening. Even when I had to go to the other room, I was still listening and I was still commenting as if you all could hear me, even though you couldn't. So it's very rare, but for your guys' show, I do listen and I do comment, even though
That's
I'm not commenting
awesome.
at that
Especially my
point.
Gramps comment about Travis, because Travis had been there. You don't understand, okay? When I went to school back,
Yeah.
to college,
Yep.
I was the old guy
Oh
that was
yeah.
in the classroom with all these 19, 20 year olds.
I
I was,
know.
like you said, I was actually older than the professor
Yep.
that
I
was in most of my classes.
yep.
And it's kind of weird that way, when
It
they're
is.
talking about stuff and it's like, yeah, okay, I've been there, done that already.
Yep. Well, and I
What
told and I told my group because I'm in a cohort of 8 students, and they're all much younger than me. And I told them, I said, look, I had people like me when I was in college. I had people that were old. They're not. They're. I realized they weren't old then.
you
They're
say older
I,
or old?
old. I thought they were old. I mean,
Okay.
that was but I didn't want to be that guy that came in and acted like he knew everything. But it's been fun doing that. It's stressful. I was telling you and Jen before the show started. I'm working right now on a 20-page research project paper that's due Monday at midnight. I've
Mhm.
got about 13 sources that I've found and read and know what I'm using there. I've got about 13 more that I've pulled but haven't read them yet. So got a lot of stuff to do this week, and be a lot of
It's a lot
coffee
of fun.
drinking and a lot of reading and writing and things like that.
I
But yeah, um, I do think it's you know the book. I'm going to drop the link in here in just a little bit,
Mhm.
Steve, so that you can share it with everyone. But you really want to get a copy of this book. There's some really really good stuff in there, and Bill had me write the forward, as I've done for I think almost all of his books post delivered. There might have been one or two that I haven't written the forward or the intro for. And it's always an honor when Bill asks me to do that, or to review the book and write a review or something. And this one, and it's not just the case files themselves, and I've said this to Bill on the show. His writing has honed. He tells stories now. He doesn't just hammer out facts.
Facts, right.
He's actually telling you what went on. He's giving you behind the scenes, and he does a great job in the first few chapters of this book of setting up the backstory from Dark Force without really going and retelling Dark Force.
Right.
But he gives you just enough there to really begin to appreciate what his family went through and what helped make him the man and the spiritual
Well, I
warrior.
think what really stands out in this book that he's probably been in the other books, but his first time that he stood as an exorcist when his mom
Yes,
got thrown against the vanity table,
yes,
whatever it was that was there, when he actually stood up and rebuked whatever was there.
yeah.
You mean when
Uh,
she was thrown into the room and the door slammed? Like I'm telling you, I read that book and that was years ago when I read it, but I can tell you exactly everything that happened in that book. I mean, I was
yep.
so invested in that book. I was like, if anybody would have tried to take that from me, I think I would have hurt them.
I read Dark Force in one sitting. Uh,
Yeah.
and actually, I read Dark Force and Delivered back to back in one night, and was fascinated by the stuff in Dark Force, and was very very enlightened when I'm able to see um, what he became at that point, and the way that he has developed, and God has molded him even more so for this role that he's playing now. I think it's an amazing progress that he has made. And you're right that that scene, Jen and Steve, that scene is one of those scenes that you know um, we when we've optioned Dark Force, which we've done several times, trying to get it turned into a film, which we're still very much working on doing. Um, there are some liberties that we've allowed the screenwriters to have, and there are some scenes that are definites that have to be in the movie and in the script, and that is one of them. That is one of those scenes that just, like you said, Jen. I mean, it jumps off of the page at you, and you imagine actually watching it, and then watching an 8-year-old child stand up to a demonic force, and call out this demonic force and go toe to toe with it as an 8-year-old boy. And you're right, Steve. That really was the birth of the spiritual warrior.
Mm.
That moment is when things changed for Bill. And again, I joke that I'm Bill Bean by proxy tonight. I've told the story so many times. He had an amazing godly uncle that influenced him and led him down the path
Clifford.
to become the spiritual warrior. Yes, yes.
Right.
Um, and he had his ups and downs, as we all do in his teenage years and early adulthood. But all of those paths have led him to where he is today, impacting the lives that he impacts, helping the people that he helps all over the world, like I said, and especially all over this country, and then forming these strong bonds and strong friendships that he's been able to develop over the past several years.
Well, the good thing would is starting to take notice of him. He's been on a number of the paranormal shows
He has,
recently,
yes,
and that's a good thing because there was a time, as I said earlier, him and the paranormal sort of took turns in different directions. But
yeah.
I think they're starting to realize that what he's doing is real. They're realizing now what we realized 10 years ago, is really what I should say. And
Yeah.
they're realizing that this isn't just a ploy for him to become famous, to become I think in Bill's mind, I don't think he cares if he ever
Oh,
becomes famous.
he doesn't.
That's
Uh,
not
mu-
what he's here for.
much to my chagrin, because I mean that's kind of what I've tried to do as his publicist and his manager, is to get him out there. And it's like I tell him every time, and I joke, because I say this on Spiritual Warrior. We've sat down and walked away from six figures and more sometimes in optioning Dark Force, because Bill chooses to stand by his integrity, and I respect that. That doesn't mean I have to like it. I respect it. I don't have to like it, but I do
Well,
respect it. And I respect his stance. But you're right. One of the things that's very interesting about Bill, and this has always been a point of contention, not between he and I, but between the religious world and the paranormal world, and getting them to actually intersect and not bump heads. And he has he's been ridiculed by the mainstream religious world. He's been canceled from appearing on mainstream religious programs because of his stance. Uh, There are people in the paranormal world, like you said early on. There are those that want to make everything demonic, and there are those that don't believe in the demonic. And I think there is middle ground there. I don't believe everything that goes on paranormal is demonic.
Right.
And we've had this conversation. There's so many layers
Right.
of spirituality and paranormal activity. I don't think everything is demonic. Is there
Right.
demonic out there? Absolutely. And the demonic is dangerous. It is dangerous mentally, spiritually, and physically. As you've heard, Des being picked up and slammed into the floor, and Bill's mom being thrown across a room, and Steve, you being kicked out of bed. Although I still not sure that wasn't Jen. I'm just saying.
If
I'm
she could
just
put
saying.
me
Yeah,
that high
no.
up in the ceiling, I'd really worry. Okay, she had the go gadget arms.
Right.
Right.
But it's it's fascinating to watch Bill, and it's fascinating to watch his world, because his world is very different than our world. It really is. You know, Bill sees things that we don't see. Bill sees UFOs. Bill sees cryptids. Bill sees these demonic forces, and their stories. And you mentioned there's pictures, there's photographic evidence of some of these demonic entities here in the pages of Tales from an Exorcist. And it's just, Bill sees things we don't see. Bill sees black helicopters everywhere, and it cracks me up, because we were talking about it one night on the Kev Baker show. Well, actually, it was not the Spiritual Warrior show then, by that point, but we were talking about the black helicopters, and Bill just talked about how that he had photographs of them and video of them following his car and all this, and I jokingly, like I do, and that's something that Des and I talk about. I try to bring a certain amount of brevity and levity to every interview, because it can get very serious. The stuff that Bill talks about can get very, very tedious and very, very deep and very, very dark sometimes. So I try to always bring a little bit of light to it. I was making jokes about the black helicopters or something like that, but I swear to you, that show was on a Sunday night. The following Wednesday, I was playing in a golf tournament in London, Kentucky, and I swear to you, for the entire 8 hours that I was on the golf course playing, there was a black helicopter that circled the golf course and just would fly over periodically. And it was just, and then there was a couple of other instances where the same thing happened. And it's like one of those things. It's like Bill starts talking about it, and it's going to come. You're going to start seeing it as well.
On our last show with Bill, we actually played the video of the thing that was outside his window that he had taken.
Yes.
He had
Yes.
that 10-15 second clip of, and we actually played that. He was talking about all this stuff and what follows him all the time. People think he's crazy, but he's not crazy.
No,
I mean,
he's
this
not.
stuff is going on.
He is, and anybody that is in the pages of this book, they don't think he's crazy, because they've experienced these things. You all don't think he's crazy because you've experienced and witnessed many of the same things that Bill has seen and witnessed. I don't think he's crazy. I go into a little bit of my story, because Bill did perform a deliverance on me back in 2016 or 2017. I can't remember what year. I want to say it's 2016. But he performed a deliverance for me. And it's one of the best decisions that I've ever made to have him do that for me. I was not possessed, but I did have a very negative demonic spiritual attachment to me that was acting as a parasite, and it was sucking the life out of me. Not physically, I don't think, but definitely mentally and spiritually and emotionally and psychologically to some degree. And Bill was able to minister and to help me, and he did it virtually. I was in Kentucky, and he was in Maryland. I believe he might have been on the road, now that I think about it. But he called me one afternoon, and we did about an hour and a half, 2 hour phone deliverance, and I'm grateful for him. I really am. And so I think when you pick up this book and you read these tales, these case files, you're going to be very, very surprised at some of the things that you see in his writing, some of the things that he's witnessed, some of the things that have gone on. And I will say this, and I'm not going to divulge who I've talked to, but I've talked to people who have been with Bill when he has performed these deliverances, and I've talked to them separate and apart from Bill. These are conversations that I've just had with them, and before Bill has ever written anything down, there's some of these stories that I've read. I know exactly what's going on, what's happening because I've heard about them. I've heard what people have seen when they've been with him. So there is other eyes that have seen many of these same things.
It was
And
one of the reasons we requested to be there,
mhm.
because in all the time that I knew Bill, we had never, never seen him actually do an exorcism or a deliverance, and we asked if we could go, and he said, "Oh, definitely." So we had supper that evening. Took him to a really nice pizza place, which he still raves about. So much for his Baltimore
Yes,
pizza, but
yeah.
but
Oh, Baltimore should not be known for its pizza.
no, no,
Baltimore,
no,
Maryland should only be known for its crabs and its crab cakes.
yeah, we've been there, so yeah, we. So
Bill,
okay, so I want to try to wrap it up, and we can talk more at a future date because there's a lot of stuff I want to talk about too. Uh, in the future, talking about UFOs and what that has to do with the Bible and how that they actually intermix with each other. Because what we're seeing by Hollywood, we talked about Hollywood and stuff, as UFOs and aliens are just Satan and stuff. Just we're being partially deceived by some of it too.
I think there's definitely credibility to part of theory. I'm individuals. I would a fine line when it comes to the concept of UFOs. I think they have been around for a very long time, and we did an entire show on Spiritual Warrior one night where I have a slide presentation that I put together where we show depictions in medieval art of UFOs in the ark, and we look at biblical accounts of flying machines
Chariots
or
and
flying beings, chariots, right, and things like that. And there's even one choir of the angels that uh, is it's called the wheel within the wheel. They're circular in appearance. They have eyes all over them, which sounds a lot like lights when you think about it. And so there's a lot of things that I would love to come. It's one of my favorite topics to discuss. Even when I was a pastor, I would throw this stuff out there for people to think about on during Sunday schools or Wednesday night Bible study sessions. I would break this stuff open and have them start thinking outside the box about these things. But Bill sees them. I mean, Bill sees these things all the time, and they do follow Bill. They appear. They harass. And some of them just follow. So I'm not again. I'm not so sure that some of them are not angelic and some might be demonic. But I don't rule out the possibility that I don't think I'm not egocentric enough to think that we are the only species or creatures in the universe that God created. I think there's a lot more out there than what we know. So,
I agree with
Well,
you.
John will tell you that I spend almost every night watching YouTube. Okay, because
mhm.
that's the TV really is pathetic most days, but watching all these videos on this stuff, and I'm trying to teach myself. Even watch a lot of Lon Strickler's, who I know has been on the show a number of times. Learning more and more about all these different creatures and stuff that's out there that we know about. Like, come on, you and I have talked about the Mothman twice.
Yes.
Okay, and even a friend of mine said, "Oh, we're going to the Mothman again tonight." And I was like, "No, nope, nope.
No.
He's
Right.
playing Bill Bean tonight." Okay,
Yep.
I
That's it.
said I will mention the word Mothman.
I should have Hollywood cast me as Bill Bean since I have been his proxy so much. I should make them cast me as him in the movie. That's going to be that. That's how Bill can recompense me.
There we
I get
go.
to play Bill Bean. I
So,
know.
if somebody wants to reach Bill, okay, how do they go about reaching Bill?
They can go to BillBeanSpiritWarrior.com. I'm sending that to you right now so you can share it. And then BillBeanWarrior.com. I'm sorry. This is something that Des and I have been working on. He has had so many
domain names.
domain names that we're trying to get rid of some of the ones and merge them all into another. And then for purchasing the book, if my keypads would work, this would be a lot easier. And I know we didn't get into a lot of your questions tonight, Steve, but I think these are a lot of these are questions that are probably going to be better answered by Bill himself.
And not
Bill
only
being,
that, the questions that I had really were about the book. And we discussed a lot of the book already. But the fact is that I don't want to go into too many specifics of the book. I did this a couple of weeks ago. A friend of mine who does, he's an addict counselor, addiction counselor. So, okay, a friend of ours had someone on a show who did remote viewing for the government. He said there are aliens who are friendly and some who are not. Yes, I've heard that. And actually, I've heard about, like, the reason we haven't gone back to the moon is that those aliens are not friendly
yes.
that are there. So, I mean,
And there's
yeah,
some interesting
we could
theories
go,
out there. Yeah.
yeah, we go. Now, he just gave me talesfromanexorcist.com, which Jen will type into the page there because I closed it. That's hence was the echo was coming because I forgot to mute it. Okay, so we were hearing stuff going back and forth 2 or 3 times. You know, to folks that are out there, there's a contact form, I'm sure, on that site too, so they can click it. Even at billbeanwarrior.com, I
Bill,
know it's on that site.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you are in need of spiritual counseling, deliverance, anything like that, billbeanwarrior.com is the site you're going to want to go to. That's how you can contact Melinda, and Melinda can put you in touch with Bill. If you're interested in purchasing this book or any of the others that Bill has, then you can do that there as well. But talesfromanexorcist.com actually lists all of the books, and there's a link there. I actually had someone private message me earlier that's watching the show, wanted to know how they could order the book. I just sent them directly to there, but that you can also go to amazon.com. But if you want a copy, for example, if you want a copy autographed, then you by Bill, and he will do that, then you'll place that order through his website so that he knows to do that, as opposed to it being
And
shipped.
that's one of the big things is I've been to some of his lectures. Jen and I have both been a bunch of his lectures. The books are always the first thing that fly off those tables.
Oh yeah.
Because
absolutely.
You listen to him talk, and people from when they first walk in to when they walk out are completely different. I mean, they're completely confused. I mean, they're changed type of people. So, yeah, we'll come back to this and we'll do something that's different. When do we get to read your book, Trav?
I started writing one about 7 years ago about Mothman. Actually, when we did the documentary film, it was set up to be multiple documentaries. We were going to do the original story, and it's actually funny, Steve. This would have been the perfect time to do a Mothman segment because the 15th of November was the 56th anniversary of the sightings in 1966. Unless you backtrack to November 12th, where the guys were digging the grave and they saw a winged entity as well. But it's always fun to talk about something that's not Mothman. But I started the book based on, well, I actually started 2. I was going to do one book that was going to pick up where the second documentary was going to start, which was going to be the religious and spiritual implications. And then I started one that was actually just kind of recounting the entire process of doing the documentary, the trips to Point Pleasant, the people, kind of a behind the scenes, work on it with my cousin who was the other producer on it, and hopefully the next time we talk about Mothman, Matthew will be able to join us because he unfortunately his work schedule interfered last time. So, but always willing to come back and hang with you guys and talk a little bit.
Yeah, we can. I want to open up. We've been looking. Believe it or not, I've had people saying, when are you going to do a show on this type of topic? When are you going to do on this type of topic? And, usually that means I got to find authors to do that. Yeah. Okay?
Well,
and I don't have...
I'm going to tell you real quickly. I will put you in touch with Lon. I don't represent Lon, but I can put you in touch with Lon, or to put Lon in touch with you. However, I do still represent other authors, and as a matter of fact, just sent off a contract this morning, as a matter of fact, to a publishing house in Missouri. I'm going to start representing all of their authors. So, and it's a wide-ranging genre, so there might be some in there that I can send your way as well.
You and I are going to have a talk. off air one day. Okay, about all of that.
We can do that.
Yeah, you know, and funny thing was, I was going to start the show off before we had all the sound that was going nuts. I was going to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening,
Yep.
because that's really what I felt tonight when I was preparing for this show. I felt Kev around, and you know, it's Kev that really think about it.
Yep.
We're all here together because of Kev.
Absolutely.
You know,
And there is really not a day go by that I don't miss that man like crazy. And it is my one of my missions in life is to actually get to Scotland and to see Pearl, his mom, and his wife Anne, and his brother, and just and actually just get to have that another layer of connection that I have, because Kev always said that, you know, I was his American brother from another mother, and I believe that, and I feel it.
he
And
made
so
all of us feel special.
he did.
Okay, he
And
was such a great, genuine person.
he was.
And it's funny, I was actually going to contact Pearl to see if I could get his brother to do the show this evening with us.
Oh, wow.
Because Bill has helped his brother on a
Mhm.
couple of occasions as
He
well.
has. And yeah, he
So I
helped
was
Kev.
going to try to get him on the show too. But God knows what time it would have been there that he had to be away.
Oh yeah, I'm trying to remember if when we were doing the show, we started at 9 p.m. and I think that was 11 p.m. for Kev. No, can't
Right,
be right.
11 and 12, somewhere in there.
Yeah, something like that. Or was it 2 a.m.? I never can. I just remember there were times when the show would go for 3 and 4 hours, and that happened a lot. That Kev would just be, you know, he's like, you know, I got to go to bed, Trav. He said, I've got to get to some sleep. He said, I just can't do this. It's like,
Hey, I
I
went to bed
spoke
at 7 this morning, so hey.
hey,
I
well,
spoke
I
to
did.
Barry Fitzgerald last week, and
Oh,
he's a paranormal investigator and author. He's really good, but he's in Ireland.
yeah.
And
Uh,
I didn't realize right before the show when we started, I was like, by the way, Barry, I was like, what time is it there? And he goes, midnight. I was like, oh my God. I was like, so I won't keep you more than an hour. Okay, we'll cut it right at that hour mark so that you go, I'd appreciate that. I was like, no problem. But so, all right, so everybody who listened to us tonight, I really thank you for joining us tonight. Check next week. We don't actually have a show because next week is Thanksgiving,
that is true.
so
And
we
I'll
won't
wish
be doing
everyone
these.
and I'll wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving right now.
And the
I
same
hope you
thing
guys.
from Jen and myself. We
Thank
wish
you.
everyone a truly happy Thanksgiving, and you know we'll be together again soon. So thank you for joining us tonight, Travis.
Thank you guys very much. God bless you all.